Hey guys, welcome back. What we really want to dive into right now is those personalities and epic moments that leave you thinking, wow, I want to collect this guy's chapter. So we won't be including crazy Matt Ward-esque style characters in this list. That means no Manius Calgar tearing the head from a Lord of Skulls in a comic, or Kaldor Drago etching his predecessor's name onto Mortarian's heart. There are some straight up legends we're about to speak about, and then there are some underdogs you may not have fully discovered yourself. Our last chapter master has some interesting tales, so hang in there, I think you'll enjoy this. If you're not familiar with the Red Scorpions chapter, allow me to enlighten you. They're a rare breed of Space Marines in that they fervently believe in the Emperor of Mankind's divinity. Their ideals are very reminiscent of the Black Templars in that they hold nothing but abhorrence in their hearts for any genetic deviation from the supposedly hallowed human form, meaning they are either not willing to fight alongside Imperial sanctioned abhumans such as Ogrins, Ratlings or Longshanks, or they may very well turn their weapons on their counterparts, something a certain other chapter has been known to do. Their gene sire is unknown, even to the Adepts of Terror, and it even lacks any of the famed hallmarks which hark back to one of the loyal 9 Primarchs. Very suspicious. I wonder if the Red Scorpions are a side project of Call's during his process in creating the Primaris Marines. Something to muse on anyway. We're breaking the brief with this first chapter master because he was recently stepped down from the position through no fault of his own. He was actually interred inside of a Leviathan dreadnought, but more about this soon. Karab Khan was elevated to the honoured rank of Chapter Master during the infamous Badab War, wherein loyalist Space Marines battled against each other in a civil war of sorts, which I'll be making a video on soon enough. In what can only be described as a trial by fire, Karab, recently elevated to the rank of Chapter Master, stalwart in his determination to avenge his predecessor and bring honour to his chapter, would lead the combined loyalist forces of the Red Scorpions, Salamanders, Raptors, Howling Griffins, Nova Marines, Firehawks, Fire Angels, Sons of Medusa, and Marines Errant against the rebellious Astartes chapters under the command of Luft Huron, later known as Huron Blackheart. The new chapter master would prove to be worthy of the monumental responsibility thrust upon him, displaying to his fellow chapter masters that the Red Scorpions lead from the front, where the fighting is thickest, and that they would not waver when waging war against their erstwhile brothers in arms. Though not much detail exists on the exploits of Karab, it is known that in recent lore he was felled while battling against Chaos forces, possibly of the Dark Mechanicum, though out of respect for his prowess in both personal combat and leadership, Karab was gifted the honour of being interred inside a relic Leviathan dreadnought, so as to still serve his chapter. A true son of Sanguinius, and that his savage appearance belies his inner nobility. As of late, Gabriel Seth has featured within the novels Trial by Blood and Devastation of Baal, which have helped immensely in explaining his all-consuming mission to save the Flesh Tearers chapter as they slowly become extinct. You see, within the Flesh Tearers gene seed, the Black Rage haunts these sons of Sanguinius at a rate far worse than most, if not all, other Blood Angels' successors. The rate of combat attrition, not to mention mercy executions the Black Rage causes, reduce the chapter's total count to only around 400 Battle Brothers prior to Primaris reinforcements being received from the Primarch Rabute Gilliman. It is Seth's belief that the noble lineage of Sanguinius still exists within the gene seed of his wayward chapter, and he will do whatever it takes to ensure they are not resigned to a footnote in the Imperium's history. Prior to the events of the devastation of Baal, Seth even attended a summons by the Blood Angels chapter, where he was put on trial by Dante himself, as well as a number of Blood Angel successor chapter masters, with the intention of determining whether the Flesh Tearers should be put down for good, due to the rate at which the Black Rage was overtaking them and the friendly casualties it was causing. Seth, stoic as ever, did not beg or plead, but instead stated he personally would bear any punishment the council saw fit to impose, and asked only that his chapter be spared. In conclusion, both Seth and his chapter were spared, as the value they bear as sheer instruments of war is utterly undeniable, and in the darkness of the far future, to destroy such powerful assets would be foolhardy. Say what you will of Seth and his warriors, but what cannot be denied is their sheer brutality and skill in battle. Seth himself wielding a mighty double-handed eviscerator, whilst the battle brothers who have succumbed to the Black Rage charge ahead of the main line, vicious howls imposing terror upon those who would dare to face them in open battle. In a chapter which has seen a spike in popularity in the recent couple years, developing a die-hard fanbase, Jubal Khan would rise to the rank of chapter master of the White Scars. Having served at the head of his chapter proudly and with honour, Jubal's success streak was about to come to a bloody end. During a redemptive raid on a Red Corsair space station, a retaliatory attack to answer the Red Corsair's actions against the White Scars' homeworld of Trigoris, Jubal would be captured after becoming trapped within debris of the destruction he and his warriors had wrought within the vessel. Though he would later be rescued by his brothers, a feat in and of itself, Jubal's body had endured extreme torture to the point where not even the apothecaries of his chapter could heal him. Indeed, the best they could do was place Jubal inside a life-sustaining cradle in which his wounds would not overcome him so quickly. Bearing his Primarch's keenness of mind and resolution, however, Jubal has not let his immobility stop him from leading his chapter successfully. He still issues orders from the device which keeps him living, honing his strategic mind further as his newfound lack of physical concerns allow him to concentrate on masterfully conducting his chapter's war efforts across the stars. The legendary chapter master of the Crimson Fists, Pedro Cantor, is one of the most established chapter masters in 40k lore, and after long years of not much in the way of character development, he's received a mention with the return of Guilliman. Pedro is best known for his masterful, determined leadership during the defense of his chapter's homeworld against the vast orc forces belonging to War Snagrod. Though his exploits haven't been much explored outside of his chapter's renowned campaigns against the orc race, Pedro Cantor has utilised the Primaris reinforcements provided to him by Guilliman and Belisarius Call to not only rebuild his chapter, but also to fulfill his duty to the Imperium at large by dispatching veteran kill teams to neighbouring systems to aid them in their battles against not only the orcs which flood Segmentum Tempestus, but also to hold off and even strike back against the forces of chaos pouring from the Cicatrix Maledictum. Pedro Cantor embodies the bloody-minded grit and determination his Primarch Rogel Dawn was famed for, with Guilliman even informing Pedro that his brother Dawn would be proud. In the novel Belisarius Call, The Great Works, we become reacquainted with the home of the device a lot of Horus Heresy fans will be aware of, that is, the Pharos Beacon, on the planet of Sotha. The guardians of this device are ultramarine successors known as the Scythes of the Emperor, though recently this chapter has experienced dire times indeed, many of their number being devoured by the Tyranid menace of High Fleet Kraken. Their chapter master, Manserius Thracius, however, was determined to ensure not only the survival of his chapter, but the recovery of lost battle brothers who still operate abroad, stranded on war-torn worlds, battling the Tyranids against all odds, or even operating in small teams upon Tyranid hive ships. With Thracius at the helm, a great many of the casualties the Scythes experienced have been replenished through recruiting on the worlds they defend in the way of the advancing Tyranids, removing those suitable to serve the chapter prior to the Tyranids enveloping the hapless defenders. In fact, for a time, other than a handful of firstborn Marines, including Thracius himself, the entire rest of the chapter was composed of Primaris Marines, recently gifted to the chapter by Guilliman. Unfortunately, even after the destruction that High Fleet Kraken would wrought upon Sotha and the Scythes chapter, one final act of violence was fated to be enacted. Accompanying Belisarius and his exploratory team to Sotha to investigate the mountain which housed the Pharos Beacon, Manserius Thracius and all of his veteran firstborn Marines would be slain by the Genestealer Patriarch originally responsible for hailing High Fleet Kraken to the Scythes' home world. It is unknown who among the Scythes has been elected to take up the mantle of Chapter Master. Asterium Moloch holds the rank of Chapter Master of the dark and vicious Minotaurs. Space Marines who are as expert at granting the Emperor's mercy to other Astartes as they are the Xenos and the Traitor. In fact, Moloch is such a skilled combatant that the Custodes Valerian himself doubted he could best him in single combat. As the Minotaur chapter are said to be under command of the High Lords of Terra, Moloch savours every opportunity to test himself and his chapter against Space Marine chapters whom the High Lords deem to have strayed too far from the Emperor's guiding light. Another interesting fact about Moloch and his Minotaurs is that when deployed, it is almost a certainty that the entire Minotaurs chapter will be a part of the same action. The Minotaurs eschewing spreading their forces like most Astartes chapters are forced to do by necessity. This means the Minotaurs not only wield their outright savage demeanour and combat skills, but they have the backing of 1,000 Marines in whatever theatre they're engaged within. One of their more notorious deployments was during the Badab War, wherein the Minotaurs chapter sprung a trap on the successors of Sanguinius, the Lamenters, slaughtering many of them before taking the remainder prisoner. This one action efficiently removed the Lamenters from being able to support Luft Huron's successionist agenda during that conflict. In the novel Watchers of the Throne, we also get to see the Minotaurs in action on the throne world of Terra itself, with the recently returned Primarch Rebute having departed to conduct the Indomitus Crusade. The political unity of Terra was perhaps the worst it had been in millennia. With the recent banishment of the Khorne Horde, many Chaos cultists had run to ground and were openly acting out against the Imperium. Alongside this, the Council of High Lords were also quite fractured, with several replaced and responsibilities reformed by Guilliman prior to his departure, with the Minotaur's arrival to Terra contacted secretly by one of the High Lords, likely the Lord of the Administratum. Chaos ensues, with the bronze-suited chapter committing covert strikes against targets ahead of the Custodes and Imperial Fist investigations into the Chaos cults. They even killed a couple of Imperial Fists, though the Sons of Dawn were stopped from hitting back. I think it's safe to say that were any other chapters to show up unannounced to Terra and start engaging in hostilities not only against Chaos cults, but the belligerence shown to the Sentinels of Terra, there would be harsh censures, to say the least. This shows the level of secretive authority not only backing this chapter, but instructing it. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate all the comments, likes and subs you've been throwing our way. Please remember, if you do enjoy the content, give it a like so the algorithm spreads the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you aren't subscribed, consider subbing and hitting the notification button so YouTube lets you know when we upload. Until next week, take it easy and have a good one.